So, Chapter 8 is titled Guaranteed Outcomes, and it's pretty self explanatory what this is about. And it's about the alleged or supposed producer manipulation that is rampant throughout the Big Brother US. And we all know of certain events that happen or certain shady events, and I'm wondering if they're going to talk about the editing of the show as well, pertaining how the edits can be influenced or can be used to influence who gets what when it comes to certain prizes and who is more shown on the episodes based on who is more favored. Here's the quote from John Kroll, who was the executive producer from Big Brother 2 to 4. Networks are terrified of the unknown. I think people have forgotten it was the unknown that made early reality TV so special. And I couldn't agree more with this statement, and especially seeing how much Big Brother evolved or devolved in this element where everything is just so controlled, so contrived, even down to the diary rooms, just really takes out the essence of what makes it so special. Despite some of the earlier seasons being more loose with their commentary and what was said then wouldn't be allowed now, it felt more natural and there's an essence to it that most of the modern seasons just don't have. The early years of reality TV are marked by new and exciting creative flair. However, as the genre seeps into the mainstream, programming takes a sharp turn toward increased structure and predictability. Big Brother is no exception to this trend. Arnold Shapiro departs in 2007 ahead of the ninth. Something tells me, no, maybe it was ahead of the ninth season, but I thought it was before the eighth season. Anyways, his exit is orchestrated by his young protege, Alison Guarner, who feels she is contributing more to the program and therefore is entitled to a greater than equal share of its earnings. Guarner's lawyer is allegedly friends with Nancy Tellem, CBS's second in demand, helping her cause. Shapiro is presented with a significantly reduced deal. They definitely gave him not just a gentle push out, but a really good kick, remarks one executive. I will never treat my mentors that way, they say in reference to Guarner. While it's true that Allison is more intimately involved in the show's daily operations, she never would have gotten the job had it not been for Shapiro. She was a complete unknown at CBS in 2001. This is interesting because I remember in some of the earlier chapters, Shapiro signed on knowing that he wouldn't be around for a lot of the seasons. So I'm wondering if it was a bit of both, where he didn't plan to be around for too long and he was also heavily pushed out. Despite the maneuver pulled on her former mentor, Shapiro harbors no resentment and offers only praise to Gunner. Allison is very intelligent, driven, competent, and creative, he says. He fondly reminisces about watching her come into her own as a producer, remembering the early days of their partnership where she would stick by his side at major entertainment events. I had no fear going up to anybody, whether it was a celebrity or Les Moonves, says Shapiro. Allison was just a little bit shy about that. Guana, too, recognizes Shapiro's influence on her career. It was Arnold who gave me my first paying job in television and inspired me to continue my career in unscripted and documentaries, she says today. He taught me that real human stories and compelling emotional storytelling could change lives in a positive way. Shapiro, not entirely captivated by Big Brother's content and feeling he had achieved his goal of revitalizing the format for CBS, rejects the reduced offer. Before his retirement in 2015, he will go on to produce a PBS documentary, Iwo Jima, From Combat to Comrades, and the TV three TV series, including A&E's Beyond Scared Straight, which breaks records upon its release, becoming the network's highest-rated series. Yes, the sentence about him not being captivated by Big Brother's content is one of the reasons why he was never too attached to the show, and he didn't want to stay by it too long. Reality TV is booming in 2007. This is the year Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Jon and Kate Plus 8, and Say Yes to the Dress debut. As more reality series are added to programming schedules, the genre becomes even more entrenched in the financial ecosystems of broadcast and cable networks. This leads to what producer Pete Taglia, who works on season 1 and 4 of Big Brother, refers to as guaranteed outcomes. Code word for, we need this to happen, he says. This is in opposition to the original days of reality when producers shot things without knowing exactly how they were going to end. Perhaps the earliest example of Big Brother guaranteeing outcomes occurs in the summer of 2007 in a twist called America's Player. Eric, a young Jewish New Yorker, is selected to discreetly compete complete tasks on behalf of the voting public, including who to vote out each week. This twist significantly aids story editors by enabling the continuation of a captivating storyline, the rekindling relationship of father-daughter duo, Evil Dick and Danielle. Season 8 is amazing television, but it would not have happened without production intervention. 4 years later, a similar twist is introduced. So this is pretty much what I was referring to earlier on with the producers using the story editors to encourage certain results to happen. So certain people can stay longer and so certain favorites can get benefited. And it's interesting that this started right when the post-classic era, which I see as from Big Brother 8 to Big Brother 15, started. America's Player is rebranded as the Big Brother Saboteur in Season 12. As the name suggests, one Huskus is tasked with secretly sabotaging the others. Reagan is chosen for the role, but initially he declines, fearing that it will jeopardize his standing in the game. I have no idea why they didn't mention Annie since she was the first saboteur, but I guess they didn't want to highlight the fact that she was evicted week 1. Executive producer Rich Meehan is enlisted to persuade Reagan to reconsider, a rare move as story editors typically handle diary room communication. Ultimately, Reagan agrees to the mission. You want to keep production happy, he explains. It's very easy for them to influence decisions that you're making. I didn't know that he initially rejected, but it makes sense because Reagan's entire strategy was being under the radar and not bringing attention amongst himself, and being the saboteur would do that. But of course, they didn't show him initially rejecting the offer. In week 5, it becomes evident to Reagan that the production is determined to keep Rachel, a hot-headed and contentious house guest, in the game. The day before her eviction, they kept calling me and Brittany into the diary room to double-check on our votes, he recalls. They had never been that way before. When producers realize that Reagan is unwilling to save Rachel with his vote, he is given a new task as saboteur. Glue the front door shut so she is unable to leave on eviction night. Oh, wow! I didn't know that. And that's definitely shady. Reagan refuses, even in the face of more direct pleas from Meehan. Surprisingly, Meehan backs down. Shortly afterwards, however, a new twist is introduced, Pandora's Box, which results in Rachel's temporary return. What's interesting here, and what they didn't mention, but as feedsters know, is that during week 1, when it was Annie and Rachel on the block, production tried their best to get Annie to stay and for Rachel to go, since they wanted their saboteur twist to stay. But the house guests, especially Hayden, caught on to all this, and it made them want to evict Annie even more. America's Player, The Big Brother Saboteur, and Pandora's Box are just a few of the twists producers have employed over the years to guarantee outcomes. While these kind of twists were initially novel, they have since become a hallmark of the series, resulting in a sense of predictability and diminished authenticity, which I definitely agree with. A changing legal environment also accounts for a decreased authenticity on today's reality shows. Every time there's a problem, they add another layer of legalese to the contract, says Tata Chalia, who has worked on series like TLC's Meet the Putmans and Bravo's Shahs of Sunset. He recalls attempting to film a scene in which a cast member gets a manicure, but then production stalls when network lawyers demand the crew take out an additional rider in the insurance policy in case someone gets an infected nail. It just sucks all the spontaneity out of everything, he says. We used to do a lot of things, guerrilla, go with the flow, see where it takes you. Genre familiarity is also to blame for the decreased authenticity. By the time we got to year 10, 11, 12, a generation had been raised watching the show, says Andrew Farrott, who worked on Big Brother 3 to Big Brother 6 and Big Brother 9 to 12. They went on and started to behave like they were on a reality show. That ruined something. Farrett recalls an incident in the dining room in which he poses a hypothetical to a contestant, asking the contestant why he didn't react in a certain way. The contestant responds by informing Farrett that his character wouldn't do that. Paul Romer, who co-created the global format, agrees with Farrell's assessment, insisting the initial seasons are always the best because house guests don't know what they're getting into. I feel like this with all reality shows. Even if they're competitive reality shows or not. You see the same case with the first few seasons or the first era of Survivor. It's probably the same thing with The Amazing Race, though I don't watch it. The first several seasons of The Challenge, so on and so forth. And it's even kind of like this with shows like The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Love and Hip Hop, so on and so forth. In the early years, contestants were creating the roadmap themselves, like June, who had no idea her ex would be joining the show. It was truly a surprise, she recounts. We weren't expecting twists. Most of us were just in it for the love of the game and to do something different with our lives. Likewise, Dr. Will didn't apply for BB2 specifically to be a villain. Nobody knew to go on a reality show and be a villain because it hadn't been done before. Today's applicants understand the machinations and know how to play the audience. Many now use these series as a springboard to become a digital influencer, somebody paid by companies to push products on social media, like BB16's Nicole, who makes her living this way. Okay, I have to kind of interrupt here because a lot of the alumni of the earlier seasons did sign on the show with an intention of being famous. The only difference is that they thought they would be legit actors and legit celebrities. And all of them did get some modeling gigs and some sponsorships and stuff like that. The only difference is that influencing didn't exist in the 2000s, and had it existed in the 2000s, a lot of them would have become influencers. So while this point is true, it's kind of disingenuous in a way where it wasn't applicable for the early Huskies because the option wasn't available, not because it's something that they wouldn't have wanted to do. As reality TV solidifies its place in mainstream culture, series like Big Brother have become finely tuned machines. With every twist and turn meticulously planned, the shift towards guaranteed outcomes has created an environment akin to what gave rise to reality TV in the first place. An environment crying out for something new and fresh.